Welcome back to another tutorial. In this one, I'm going to start on the actual Bootstrap page layout grid beginning on the bottom of page 341. It's important to remember that Bootstrap is based upon rows and columns for many of the layouts, very similar to an Excel table, which you have rows and columns. However, don't confuse this with a table that's in HTML, rows and columns. We're going to use something totally different that is very compatible to browsers and is the way to do things now in the future, especially if you want responsive web pages and if you want to make sure that you're handicap compliant. If you work on any commercial site, you must be handicap compliant so that screen readers can read exactly what needs to be done using a table to format, although sometimes the book does show you how to do that, and that's perfectly acceptable in certain things. Then you want to make sure that the screen reader does not get confused as to what goes where. Also, it's much easier to use CSS to format as opposed to rows and columns of an actual table that's defined in HTML. I'm not talking about the rows and columns that are defined in Bootstrap, and you're going to see that in a bit. So I'm at the bottom of 341. I'm going to take this a little slow because it can be a little challenging in there. If you don't get it right the first time, do not be concerned. I suggest that you continuously make backups of your progress so that if something happens, you can always go back to where you left off. And that's exactly what I do. So I'm on now on the top of page 342, and what I've done is click on the 992, which is the medium one over here. I'm in live, so I'm now going to click on Insert, and I have the Bootstrap components open. If you don't have the Bootstrap component open, just click this arrow over here and get Bootstrap components. And then on number 3, it tells me to click on the grid row with column, which is right here. And then on the top of 342, I actually had to go back a page, sorry. And we're going to click on the nest options and change it to 2. So this is nest over here. Once you click on it, you're going to see a little blue area over here. And we're just going to change this to 2. I'm going to click OK. And then let's look at what the exact code happens to be. So notice we're inside the container class over here. And then we have a class equals row. And then another class equals column mid 6. And then another one, column mid 6. Now, if you notice, 6 and 6 equals 12. Remember that Bootstrap is based upon 12 columns. So when you have a row, all your columns are going to add up to 12. You may have to manipulate them, which is what we're going to do in one of the next exercises. Click on that. We reviewed that in the code view. And then you can read all the stuff that's on the bottom of page 342. That will explain it a little better. But remember, again, you want to make sure that all your columns add up to 12. So now we're going to click on the max width 767. And we're going to change the display size over there so you can see all that. And you can see how this works over here. Everything's changed over here. And then we're going to click the min width 1200. And you can see again how all that changes over here. So basically what's going to happen is when you have larger screen sizes, it's going to adjust accordingly. You'll see that actually when we start putting page content. So now we're going to click the min width 992 again. And then we have the existing row selected, which is this. If we go into code, you can see what's selected, which is right over here. And you could select it right from here as well. We're going back to live, and we're going to do the row and grid button, column in here, and we're going to choose the after, and we're going to set it to 3. So again, we're going to click on Insert. we're going to find grid row with column. This time we want after, and we're going to stick with 3. So let's go back. So notice you have here, we had 2. So here's 1 and 2. Here's 1, 2, and 3. So it looks kind of like a regular good old-fashioned table. So let's go into code view, and you can see you have 6 and 6. Here we have 4, 4, and 4. And guess what? That adds up to 12. Now what we're going to do with the second row selected, we're going to click the grid column, and we're going to do a choose after, and we're going to change it to 1. So now the second row is selected, and let's get this row here. Let's go into code. Notice how we have the second row is all selected. So let me go back and do that. I clicked here, I clicked there, and every time you click, that's what gets selected. So I want to click the whole row. The easiest way to click the whole row is just to go down on the bar and click row. And I always, always, always recommend that you go into code view to make sure what you think is selected is actually selected. So let's go back into code view, and we're good to go. Then I'm going to show you a way that if something doesn't work out, how you can manually manipulate it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the same thing. We're going to add a column 1 field, and we're going to do the after. So let's click on insert. Let's click on grid row and column, and we have after, and change it to 1. Click on that, and notice we have another row down here. Let's go into code view, and this time we have 12. So we have 6 and 6 is 12, 3 4s is 12, and 12 is 12. That takes care of 344. Again, while I'm going through this book, I'm doing little explanations. I don't want to stand here and read a lot and talk a lot and make these videos very long. I try to keep my videos as close to 10 minutes as humanly possible. A lot of the things that are in here are just cut and dry and very, very easy, but I encourage you to read all of the book. I have done it. It's not that difficult of reading. And I encourage you that if you don't understand something, email me, and I will make sure that when we have our next live session, I will always discuss whatever you want. I encourage you before our sessions to email me with questions that you have so that I can make sure that I address that. Our next live session, of course, is going to be Thursday, and hopefully you will all be able to attend. So now number 12, which is the medium-sized layout and document. We're going to click to select the left column of the first row. So we have this over here, and we're clicking the left column of the first row. So this is row 1, row 2, and row 3. This is the left column. This is the right column. So I'm going to click over here, and let's go into code view, and you can see it just selected the first row and then the first column of the first row. That takes care of that. And now we're going to actually offset something, and it's going to actually mess it up. Then you'll see how to fix that. And there are actually several ways to fix it. You fix it however way you want to do it. I suggest that you do it in the book in the beginning, and then if you want to try to do something different, feel free to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to click the offset column handle, which is on the very left side over here, which is right here. And all we're going to do is drag it until it shows a second class of column mid offset 1. That just basically kind of like a indent or a margin or padding, depending upon how you want to do it. Let's click and let's drag until we get it. And we have a column mid offset 1. But it's caused a dilemma, which you can see. So if let's go into code, and you can see that we have 6, we have 1 is 7, and another 6 is 13, which, unless math has changed, 13 is more than 12. So that's why it's going to appear on the second row. So we're going to fix that over here, and it shows the actual math there, in case you didn't believe me, on the bottom of 345. So I'm on top of 346, number 14. So we're going to click the resize column handle on the right side of the active class element, which is right here, and we're going to drag it to the right. Finally got it. And now we have column mid 5. If it doesn't click where you want to click it, don't feel bad because I have the same problem. All right, so now what we have is we have 1, and we have 5, and we have 6. You could have just as easily changed this from the last one to a 5 in there without going to do that stuff. So either way, so just for the heck of it, let's change this back to 6 manually and see what happens. And we're back to this over here. So you do it whatever way you feel comfortable. And we're back over here. There you go. So that's all for this video. Just remember, it can be a little bit challenging finding all the resize handles. Just remember, left is on the left and right is on the right. And feel free, as you get more comfortable with HTML, to start making these changes in HTML. For instance, if I wanted to add another row after this one, I could go in here, click on here, go into Insert, Column Grid, and do After, and change it to that. Or I could select this row here, click on Copy, and click on Paste. And let's see what that does. Now we have an extra row down here. So again, I encourage you to experiment. Just make backups. Do whatever you feel is more comfortable for you. I do not do anything the same way all the time. I just, based upon what kind of mood I'm in, and that's all, that's the advice I can give you. So that's all for this video. Please have a wonderful day and look forward to seeing you in our next video.